In New York, I used to drink after work too, but it wasn't beer. It was strategy meetings in disguise. The clinking wine glasses, the polite laughter, the subtle tension of ambition. Even after hours, everyone was still performing, carefully curating their words, managing their impressions, measuring their tone. But tonight in Hanoi, sitting on a low plastic chair beside a cracked aluminum table, I entered a different kind of after hours. Here, beer wasn't a prop for status. It was a bridge. The foam overflowed, the laughter roared, and words, raw, imperfect, unfiltered, spilled out like the golden beer itself. No one was trying to win. No one was pretending. And for the first time in what felt like decades, I wasn't managing anyone, including myself. This wasn't a meeting, it was a return to honesty. It was Min, my translator and guide, who had invited me. "Come, Clara," he said. "You've seen the offices, the factories, the meetings. Now come see how people really talk." The Bia Hoi place was tucked under a giant banyan tree, lit by a single yellow bulb that flickered like an old memory. Tiny tables spilled right onto the sidewalk. Men in work uniforms sat beside women still in their office clothes. Plastic crates were turned into makeshift chairs. Suddenly a man lifted his mug, shouting, "Mot, hai, ba, do!" And the whole row of tables answered in unison, their laughter blending with the hum of motorbikes and the incredible smell of grilled pork. I hesitated for a moment. In my world, people drank for networking or for escape. But here they drank to arrive, to return to themselves after a long day. I took my first sip, light, cold, unrefined. It tasted like freedom. Min introduced me to the group. There was Lin, a schoolteacher, Tuan, a mechanic, Bao, a delivery driver, and Han, a single mother who laughed louder than anyone I'd ever met. The conversation wasn't polite. It was alive. They talked about rent, about their kids, about bosses who didn't understand, and partners who didn't listen. They complained, they joked, they argued, and they made fun of themselves, all in one breath. I just listened, completely bewildered. No one was posturing. No one was competing for cleverness or some moral high ground. Every story was just naked and generous. In New York, our after-work drinks were rituals of status. Who was working with whom? Who got promoted? Who was dating whom? Every sentence was a calculation. But here, words weren't weapons. They were a release. Tuan, the mechanic, turned to me. "Miss Clara, in your country, do people drink like this too?" I paused. "Yes," I said, "but it's different. People talk, but they don't always say what they mean. Everyone is so careful." Tuan laughed. "Careful? Why? The beer is cheap. Words are free." The whole table laughed with him. But I didn't, because for me those words cut deep. In my world, every word could cost you a career, a relationship, a reputation. We'd replace truth with strategy. And sitting there, surrounded by people who had no need for pretense, I felt both envy and shame. How did we, the so-called rich ones, become so poor in honesty? The beer kept coming. The night deepened. At some point, someone just started singing, completely off-key, but so passionate and unashamed. A few others joined in, clapping out of rhythm, laughing through the lyrics. I found myself smiling uncontrollably. My analytical mind tried to label it spontaneity, communal bonding, low inhibition behavior. But my heart just whispered, "This is joy." I looked around the table. Hands were sticky with condensation, shirts stained with sweat, faces glowing under the dim light. And yet, I thought, this is the most beautiful dinner I've ever seen. No fine dining, no silverware, no background jazz. Just honest humanity, breathing, sweating, and existing together. But even in all this warmth, a small voice in my head whispered, "You don't belong here." It was the voice of my old life, the consultant, the strategist, the woman who built walls of professionalism around her heart. I had spent years learning how to speak without revealing, how to smile without surrendering, how to connect without risking vulnerability. And now, surrounded by people who did all those things so effortlessly, I felt completely naked. Han, the single mother, noticed my silence. "Clara, why are you so quiet? Drink more. Beer talk is truth talk." Everyone laughed again. I blushed. Then, completely unexpectedly, I said something I hadn't planned at all. I'm quiet because I forgot how to be honest when I drink. A brief silence fell over the table. Then Tuan raised his mug. Then tonight you practice again. We all have to start somewhere. They clinked glasses. The laughter returned, but something had shifted. Inside me. As the night grew later, the stories got deeper. Lynn spoke about her students, some too poor to even afford school uniforms. Bao confessed he wanted to quit his delivery job, but felt he had no other skills. Han admitted she still missed her ex-husband, even though he'd left years ago. No one judged, no one offered solutions. They just listened. And I realized that this simple act of listening without trying to fix anything was the rarest thing in my world. In my culture, every conversation has to go somewhere, achieve something. Here, conversation simply was. The air was heavy with the smell of grilled peanuts and fermented yeast, and in that scent I found something almost sacred, the holiness of just being ordinary. Suddenly an image flashed through my mind. My father, sitting silently at our kitchen table after long days at work, beer in hand, his eyes tired but soft. I used to think he was just wasting time. Now, I finally understood. That was his only hour of truth in a world that demanded he pretend all day. And I wondered, what if truth only survives in these small, unguarded hours, after the work is done, when the masks are off and the beer is cheap? Min poured another glass for me. This beer, he said, isn't about the taste, it's about time. We drink slowly, not to forget, but to remember who we are. That line hit me like a sermon. In America, we so often drink to numb ourselves. Here they were drinking to feel. It wasn't an escape. It was a return. I lifted my glass, and for the first time that night, I spoke first. To being human, even when it's messy. "Do!" everyone shouted back, their voices echoing through the warm Hanoi night. The next morning, I woke to the sound of street vendors and sunlight cutting through my window. My head was a little heavy, but my heart felt incredibly light. I sat by the window and smiled, remembering the faces from last night, imperfect, unfiltered, and so beautifully real. For the first time in years, I felt I had truly met people, not for what they did, but for who they were. I opened my notebook and wrote, "Last night, I drank with truth. It was warm, clumsy, and human. Maybe this is what freedom actually tastes like, slightly bitter, mostly sweet and always shared. In a world obsessed with image and performance, truth often hides in the simplest places, in a plastic cup of beer on a noisy street, between people who have nothing left to prove. Honesty isn't a brand you build, it's a way of being. And sometimes to find it, you have to let your guard down, spill a little, laugh too loudly, and admit you don't have all the answers." Thanks for watching and joining me on this journey. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more. See you next time.